While our country remains untainted with the principles and manners which are now producing desolation in so many parts of the world, while she continues sincere and incapable of insidious and impious policy, we shall have the strongest reason to rejoice in the local destination assigned to us by Providence. But should the people of America once become capable of that deep simulation towards one another and towards foreign nations, which assumes the language of justice and moderation, while it is practicing iniquity and extravagance, and displays in the most captivating manner the charming pictures of candor, frankness, and sincerity, while it is rioting in rapine and insolence, this country will be the most miserable habitation in the world. Because we have no government armed with the power capable of contending with human passions, unbridled by morality and religion, avarice, ambition, revenge, and licentiousness would break the strongest cords of our Constitution as a whale goes through a net. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. Oaths in this country are as yet universally considered as sacred obligations. That which you have taken and so solemnly repeated on that venerable ground is an ample pledge of your sincerity and devotion to our country and its government. That's a letter to General William Hull from John Quincy Adams, on the 11th of October, 1798. That citation was on page 65, I believe, to 66 from the book Revolutionary Services and Civil Life of General William Hull. Welcome back, guys, to the program. You're just here with me today, Pedro. We are going to be pretty much like last time we did another video where I just airing out my own opinions. So I'm not representing Zach or Andrew, but we're going to go over pretty much the status of our nation, how we got here, and what that means for us next moving forward. So yeah, let's jump into it and let's begin. Obviously, by now we've come to the realization that we lost the election, those of us who voted for Americanism that day. And now we have this, what I would just say, puppet in office, signing into us oblivion by means of executive order policies that are just going to lead us to our ultimate destruction. Now, having said that, what I should have said first was I hope that this man leads us into success in the future. I pray that, God comes into his life and shows him the error of his ways and maybe leads him down a more righteous path. But right now, that's not really happening, right? We've just been seeing a lot of things that are in the negative in terms of what's happening to our country. No. What caused us to get here, though? What caused us to get here? And then I'm going to just tell the effects. And I've written them down here. I think they're on the left or the right side of me. I can't tell on the video right now. I'm recording. But I wrote them down blatantly so that throughout the whole video you can see what I'm constantly referencing. When I say either, disinformation or I say social responsibility, I reference these things. This is it laid out, the list that you should be going by. So, what got us here? We denied free and easily accessible information. We did not listen to our enemies' open conversations / statements, refusing to try and understand their motives, desires, or objectives. And we failed to adopt / realize any kind of social responsibility to those of the future, what we have inherited from those of the past. What is the effect of this? We're going to have a society right now that's possessed by the worst of its emotions, incapable of any meaningful dialogue. Now, does that mean you should stop any dialogue? No, by no means. You should definitely keep trying to treat with these people, parlay, and make some kind of bridge, to your fellow American, and try and, discuss the hard topics in a meaningful, loving manner that maybe will result in something new coming forward, something that's actually beneficial and healthy for our country and themselves in the long run. We're going to have an appointment of unjust and cowardice judges and representatives that enact policy that is immoral, fails its people ultimately, and in direct rebellion to God. I mean, if we just think about what's happened with women's sports, that's one good example alone that's been obliterated, right? If we think about jobs that have been lost due to the Keystone Pipeline alone, I mean, these are things that are happening. Or when they were trying to hear about the fraudulent claims of election fraud going on, how we heard dialogue that was going on in the Supreme Court where they were exerting moral cowardice, not even wanting to hear the case or hear anybody's arguments or see any of the evidence. And then finally, and this is probably the best part about it all, this is the silver lining in it all, we're going to get a defining, maybe even a solidifying, a test of who's who. Everybody's mask is going to drop here and now. There's going to be people who disappear off the face of the earth, either by means of, unfortunately, cancel culture, or the fact that they never really believed what they were talking about. So they just, as soon as they got what they wanted, you're not going to see them anymore. And how do I say this? If what they wanted resulted in someone else's suffering, they will take zero responsibility for it. That'll come in the form of you'll seeing whose resolve is actually worth any salt. Will these people that, truly say what they stand for, will they capitulate? Or are they willing to, get either shoved into the gulag like I've talked about on previous episodes and, suffer for their beliefs because they know them to be right and to be true. Like we have that pastor in Canada who resists his government in trying to, in any form, shape, or form, give up the gospel and what it actually means. He's in prison right now. I think his name is James Cone. James Cone, yes. That's happening. There's a pastor in prison for exercising his religious beliefs, preaching the word of God, and saying, no, this is what's true and this is what's right, and I'm not going to change it for anybody. I'm going to see who's who. And we know who that man is. His salt's being tested right now in prison. So we're going to go through a couple things here. I have a slideshow set up. Obviously, I'm going through it. But I want you to watch this first video, and then I'll give my take on it. You're going to see what's happening is a Polish, you'll see why I emphasize the word Polish, independent female media journalist being pretty much harassed by a crowd. Let's see what happens. Can't really hear it.
What you talking about, man? What the fuck you doing?
She's a Nazi.
She's a fucking Nazi. She's a fucking Nazi.
So obviously, I don't know if you heard it in the beginning because it was muted at first. I just turned the volume back on. But the crowd is yelling, we know where you live. We know who you are. They stated her name. I'm not going to state her name because I don't want to dox her, but they're pretty much harassing this young lady. And this gentleman, well, he's not a gentleman. He's a mongrel. Let's be honest. Anybody who's willing to attack a woman who obviously is posing no real threat to you, kind of a deplorable human being. But hey, I can't judge, right?
Protecting her. She supports Trump.
She supports Trump. Why you protect her?
I mean, we got one guy trying to defend her out there. You know, that's pretty nice. I mean, he actually has some kind of resolve because he's willing to stand up to the crowd and be like, nah, I'm not going to let you attack a girl. I'm sorry, especially a woman who's alone. And this guy with this stupid face, I don't know why.
She supports Trump. Why you protect her?
I don't know why he thinks he's in the right to attack anyone.
Touch me! Do not touch me! Stay the fuck away from me!
I'll knock you out. I'll knock you out. I'll knock you out.
So yeah, I can stop it right there. So how does this relate back to my points that I stated? So let's just go through them one at a time. If I remember them perfectly without the list in front of me, we're going to be suffering people who are possessed by the worst of their emotions. Or one of the reasons being because we denied free and easily accessible information. All right, so this is a Polish lady. Right? Poland was one of the first people, or the first countries, to be stamped out by Nazi Germany during World War II. It was the first place that got hit. They're calling this Polish woman, an independent media journalist, a Nazi. Obviously, these guys haven't done their homework. They don't even know what they're talking about, flat on its face, just based off of history. So what are they operating on, if not, salient information? They're operating on the worst of their emotions. They're just out in the street looking for someone to hurt. And unfortunately, we've created the environment, or we facilitated the creation, because, we didn't advocate for this. Those of us who voted for Americanism, we didn't advocate for this to actually happen. They did. But we unfortunately facilitated its being.
I just said my name.
Yes, okay. So this next one. This will have to do with my second point. We're going to be appointed unjust judges, officials, appointees, what have you, and they will be instilling legislation that does nothing to serve its people. Let's listen to this woman right here.
Madam Speaker, St. Louis and I rise in support of the article of impeachment against Donald J. Trump. If we fail to remove a white supremacist president who incited a white supremacist insurrection, it's communities like Missouri's 1st District that suffer the most. The 117th Congress must understand that we have a mandate to legislate in defense of Black lives. The first step in that process is to root out white supremacy, starting with impeaching the white supremacist in chief. Thank you, and I yield back.
And from New York wishes to read.
All right, let's pause it right there. So what do we have? Definitely, I'll just say right away, a bunch of nonsense, right? But what are we hearing? We have to make sure that we take away that emotion, right? Even though I say it's a bunch of nonsense in my emotions, I think rightfully so. But we have to take the subject matter of what the words coming out of her mouth. This is a representative, an elected representative from the state of Missouri, calling the leader of the United States, the person who presented the Black community with the platinum deal, a $1 billion deal that was going to fund Black businesses and ultimately, if I were to be just frank about it, bring support to the Black community economically in a significant manner. But this woman right here, says that he is a white supremacist, and it's her job to not only unseat him by means of impeachment, but to do it for her Black constituents in Missouri. Not that she has a responsibility to any other constituents, like probably the Asian populace that lives there, the Mexican populace that lives there, the white populace that lives there. She's only concentrated and fixated on the black population. Going back to my list, because we did not listen to our enemies, because in their open conversations, we did not try and put any effort into hearing their desires or their objectives. They were able to, in my opinion, it's pure opinion, not just sneak past us, but walk right past us. They didn't even sneak past us. They flew right past us and into these representative seats where they are introducing things that ultimately will serve no one. And in the attempt to serve the people that they're going to fail them. And in the neglection of those other people that I talked about, that this woman represents Missouri, she's going to fail them too with unjust legislation.
Madam Speaker, St. Louis and I rise in
enough of you. Next one. All right, so let's go back to our side real quick. Pressure off the left really quick. There's also another part to that point that I made. It was that we will be subjected to cowardice judges who fail us, right? Listen to this.
On January 6th, I will object to the Electoral College vote.
All right, so this is a representative of Georgia, and what she's referencing is obviously the allegations for the fraudulent election. She's saying that she will stand up and, as a representative, compete against, challenge the Electoral College's legitimacy, as in their votes, right? In order to obviously say, we need to discuss this further. We need to investigate this. We need to actually conduct a trial to see what our next steps are, because this is not something that everybody is obviously agreeing with. She's standing right there, right? She's standing right there with the president saying that she's going to do that, right?
On January.
But then we get to the time when it is time, the moment, the culminating moment, right? We all have that moment in our life, probably. I don't know when exactly it is or how it looks, but it comes in many different shapes and forms and different times. But the moment comes for this woman, this representative's resolve to be tested, and for her to actually present the case for her people, for her constituents, to stand up for them. Let's see how she does.
Mr. President, when I arrived in Washington this morning, I fully intended to object to the certification of the electoral votes. However, the events that have transpired today have forced me to reconsider, and I cannot now in good conscience object to the certification.
So I didn't hear everything there because my headphones aren't on, but what you may have heard her say was pretty much, in effect, she reneged on what she said she was going to do, and because of the stupidity that happened on the 6th, on that day, she's not going to challenge the Electoral College votes, even though that event has no relation at all to what they're talking about in that room concerning the election, the 2020 election. Even though it has nothing to do with it, totally two separate events. She, because of that violent event, have capitulated and said, well, I just want this to keep moving on. I don't want to do what's hard. I feel like we need to unify, or whatever that means, and just let everything go. You know, that would go back to my point, is we're going to be subjected to unjust judges. This is going to be in the form of cowardice people, right? Pilate saw that Jesus was innocent. But the crowd calling for Jesus' blood, this man capitulated. Ultimately, obviously, God planned for Pilate to capitulate in the first place, but it's a sterling mirroring example of you're our leader. You know what's right, but because of the threat of violence, even though these are some of the most protected people in the world, we're just going to let it go and keep it moving. It's moral cowardice.
Mr. President.
And it kind of goes on into my next point. We're going to have they're all coming together. A society that's possessed by the worst of its emotions. Leaders who are morally cowardice. This is what you're going to see more of, things like what happened with Parler. People, organizations who do believe in the American way will be just in a coordinated effort, silenced, crushed, thrown into the gulag, what have you, but they will be obliterated off the face of the map. We're going to have no answers from these leaders. I don't know if anybody's been watching these lately, these press briefings from the White House, but circle back Psaki, man, it's horrible. It's horrible. We still don't know why, really, we bombed Syria out of nowhere. I thought we were supposed to all be peace and love, bro, unity here. But no, not even 3 months have gone by, and we're already dropping bombs again. We're about to go into another war. Psaki, can you tell me why? No, I'll circle back with you. Hey, a lot of people just lost their jobs at the Keystone Pipeline. Can you give us some details on why that was? What motivated this executive order? Did they not see this coming? I'll circle back later, says Psaki, but in the meantime, you should learn the code, just irresponsible. And it's sad, but at the same time, you're having to swallow this down. But if we really think about it, I mean, these guys voted for this. We know that unions usually vote Democrat when it comes time. So they had the free and easily accessible information to know the motives of these people. Like they don't, the Green New Deal and its documentation is a free PDF online. You can find it anywhere. I found it on Twitter, and it's crazy, right? But when you deny even going and looking at some of just its preamble or some of its concluding statements, how do I feel sorry for you when now you're in a moment where you're this guy? I don't know if anybody's seen the video. He's a construction worker, obviously, I think for the Keystone Pipeline. He's sitting in his car and he's crying that he lost his job and he's not going to be able to pay his mortgage anymore, right? And he's saying it doesn't make any sense. And honestly, it makes all the sense in the world. They've been talking about enacting these crazy deals concerning green energy this whole time. And sir, you work on an oil pipeline, right? To them, you're one of the people who are sucking the lifeblood out of the earth itself, and you're destroying the environment. What do you think? What do you think they were gonna do with your job? It baffles the mind when you see a video like that. I'm not sure. I don't have it on the slides here. There's another person crying in their car talking about how they're not going to be able to purchase insulin for their child, right? I don't know if you heard about that, guys. Another executive order rolled back all the legislation that made the prices for insulin competitive. What does that mean? if the prices are competitive, they go down, right? But with this new administration, they got rid of all that legislation, and now it's back to business as usual. Concerning the same subject, there was another video of a man, grown man, who has diabetes. He says, hey, my insulin usually costs $65, maybe $45, right? I forget the exact number. I'll be honest. So what happens next in the video? He has his phone. He's recording the interaction with the pharmacist at a Walgreens or a Smith's or something like that. And she says it's $605 now. $605. What in the world? How did that jump happen overnight? Is what you see the look on his face give, right? And the sneaking suspicion, because he acted all confused. He obviously acted depressed because why? This guy, he has a life-threatening condition, right? And he needs a medicine, and he can't pay for it right then and there. Neither can the woman for her son, who has a life-threatening condition. Both of them are stumped. They don't know what's going on. And I really hope it's hard to hold people accountable to say in the manner, hey, you voted for this. But at the same time, you did vote for this. This was what we were saying the entire time. We have this guy now. Well, honestly, HR 127 is a joke, but there are actually other bills that are coming by that they're trying to sneak stuff in. But this was, I think, this bill was a preamble to, encroaching upon our, Second Amendment rights, our ability to defend ourselves. We saw in that first video that I showed a woman in New York, Polish woman, being attacked by a crowd of grown men threatening to physically assault her, right? I don't know where you stand on it, but I wish she had the capacity to defend herself. Ultimately it's her choice. She can use whatever she wants, but I like her to have the option there to be present. But when you get stupid stuff like this coming across the desk of this guy who's honestly a puppet and will just sign anything over, it's scary. It's very scary. And you can do nothing but say to the person who voted for this, hey, man, you asked for this. And on our side, I would hold us accountable and say maybe we weren't living out our morals and having the hard conversations in a responsible, productive, loving manner like we're supposed to. And that's why we are here now. Oh yes, this slide goes back to the Platinum New Deal. It's a joke, I think I remember why I put this in here, because beforehand we were having meetings at the White House. We were getting actual deals proposed to us, right? And I'm saying us as in the black community, right? We were having things presented. We were having opportunities presented to us. There was a field of possibilities. But let's mirror that with now, right? Now we can't even get a person in the White House to acknowledge that group Black Lives Matter anymore. They're a thing of the past. They were a useful tool that has outlived its purpose. You get a Zoom call, right? You get a Zoom call wherein he scolds you like you're his children, right? And I'm now using you guys because I'm not part of that little cult you have over there for the populace who said, just because I'm black, I'm voting this way. Yeah, you're a cult, and I'm not a part of that in any way, shape, or form. If anything, you can take away my black card. I'm just Christian now. That's it. So that's how the black community is being treated now. And, I don't want to harp on it. I'm not going to turn in. This will not be a channel where we are just harping on, and throwing out allegation and, slandering or making fun of the left, right? They vote. What can be said about them is you voted for this. Whatever happens next, you lie in your bed. You made it. Be a grown up. This is what you chose, right? Now that sounds harsh, but it's simply the truth, though. It is the truth. They voted for this. Obviously, the positive part about this is with some of those people over there on that side, while we still will be communicating with them in that responsible, loving, productive manner that I'm going to keep pressing on, it will bring some of them over to our side. And through experience, unfortunately, rather than conversation and history, they will have to learn through experience, oh, this is why I need to stop electing more Democrats. I see now what happens when I keep electing more Democrats, how it makes zero sense for me in the long run. And it comes into my final point. We're going to find out who's who and who was diligent and who took on, that social responsibility to say, hey, we need to be responsible with what we've been giving here from the past so that we can carry on something towards the future. And the reason why I have Gab up here specifically to kind of help this point is the difference between Gab, Parler, and Twitter is obviously Twitter's for the radical left, where they can say whatever they want and they can make, the craziest claims without any kind of accountability. But push that to the side. Twitter, if you look at Parler and you look at Gab, the difference between the two, the reason why one was just obliterated out of the water, fortunately it's back now, right? I love Parler. That's if you look right up here, I'm Dark Astartes on Parler. And if you look on the other one, I'm Dark Astartes once again on Gab. But the difference between the two is one was prepared. One had taken the hard steps to make its own infrastructure in order to be prepared for the event where the crazy left used all its organizational power to cancel one. And as you can see in this tweet here, the reason why Gab can't get affected by any of these lunatics is because why? Oh, we have our own servers. We created our own payment processors. We don't need the App Store. We're on web browsers and stuff like that, so it'll be a little harder. But no, we didn't leave anything the chance in handing it over to those lunatics. Unfortunately, even though I love Parler, that was the mistake they made. All these things listed right here were dependent on them being fair, which is just not the case. And unfortunately, they got hit over the head for it. We're going to have to be people who know what the Constitution is, on what grounds it was made, like I read in John Adams' dissertation to General William Hall. We're going to have the mental courage that I've talked about and the moral fortitude to stand up to these unjust judges, leaders, and appointed officials. Good example here is the Commandant of the Marine Corps versus Nancy Pelosi. And it did not go well for one of them, obviously. If anybody read the story, it kind of slipped by the grid real quick. Nancy Pelosi, the authoritarian who shut down almost any business within her reach, in her political reach, but then opened one up, as you can see here, to get her own hair done. That authoritarian had the gall to come up to the Marine Corps, the Commandant of the Marine Corps, and say, hey, we would like to use some of your forces during the inauguration, right? Even though nobody was going to be there in the first place. And like we saw at the inauguration, nobody was there to celebrate Joe Biden's inauguration. No one wanted this person. If anything, I think the left, at my honesty, they voted for him because he wasn't Donald Trump. So were they really there to celebrate him? not really. But she asked the commandant of the Marine Corps, back to the story, to say, can we use your forces? Can you lend us your strength? And commandant of the Marine Corps just says straight up no, right? And, you know, they exchange words, and he's not having it. Real fast, quick, in a hurry. Here's his response to her trying to curtail him in any kind of manner, right? Don't, and this is the commandant of the Marine Corps speaking, hoorah, don't lecture me on patriotism, Madam Speaker. I've served this country with distinction for 40 years. I've spilled blood for our nation. What have you, a self-serving elected official, done for your country? I answer only to the president, and as I understand it at the time, that is Donald J. Trump. And Donald J. Trump is still the president and commander-in-chief. I abide in the Constitution as it was written, not your interpretation of it, which is probably diluted beyond all belief, ladies and gentlemen. If you want us to help combat his supporters, I suggest you get him on the phone and tell him that. If he orders me to, I will. Otherwise, I suggest you really listen hard to the words escaping your cracked, poisonous lips. They're tantamount to treason. We don't work for you. And, you know, if anybody has already passed the test with flying colors, you know, those kids who are smart, you know, during the math test, when you would see them put it on the teacher's table and then just walk out and go to recess or lunch or what have you, maybe even go home because whatever, but they've already put it down. This dude just passed the test with flying colors. He stood his ground. He understands the nature of his position and what the powers of the Constitution has afforded him on how to exert it. He is fully capable. He is a man who knows who he is. Which brings us to our next guy. We need to be emulating people like this, and you know, I don't even want to get in his way. He can do himself justice.
My name's Trip Kester. As you can see, I'm here. I just want to personally...
Could you pull that mic up a little bit?
Is that better? Okay. I just want to personally and publicly go on record supporting this resolution before us this evening. You know, guys, it's simple, like a lot of them have said. The Constitution needs no explanation. It's been in force for several hundred years now. It's easy to understand. It says what it means and means what it says. And the last time I read the Declaration of Independence, it specifically reminds all of us that we're endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, which means God-given. Among these, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And that governments were instituted among men specifically to secure our God-given rights. And it says when government becomes destructive to these ends, meaning when they go above and beyond trying to secure our liberties and trying to take them, it's the right of the people to alter or abolish that government, either by voting or ultimately, God forbid, to use our Second Amendment rights to protect ourselves from tyranny. And I'm just asking all of y'all to unanimously join our sister counties of Wilkes, Surrey, Stokes, Lincoln, and Cherokee and get on board with this thing and publicly demonstrate to us that you're willing to uphold and honor the same oath I took when I put my hand on God's word and held my other hand up to him and swore that I'd give my life to defend that Constitution. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but regardless of what y'all do or don't do, I'm not going to enforce an unconstitutional law. I'm going to
And, you know, he's a sheriff. He's a, I don't know if sheriffs are elected. He's an elected representative of his people. He fully understands the gravity and the weight of what happened when he put his hand on God's word. He fully understood the amount of power and the nature of it that the Constitution gave him over his fellow citizens and when to exert that power and to do and how to do it. He is one of the many men, like the last one we read about in the Commandant of the Marine Corps, where we're just going to have to learn from, stand behind, emulate, and reproduce. We cannot, goes to my next point, we cannot have gentlemen being produced like this anymore, right? No insult to him. I don't know who he is, but honestly, he looks a little lost, you know? There's I put money down if you were to talk to these men and you ask them meaning of life, where they stand with God, who they are, who he is in his life, what does your fellow American mean to you? What is this place founded upon? You're going to get vastly different answers. You're going to get vastly different answers. And you know what? I want my answer. I want the answers coming from me, or God willing, my children, my friends, my family. I want my answers to not have to completely repeat. I'm not trying to make robots here, but I want them to resemble what this sheriff is saying right here. I want them to know who they are. I want them to have resolve, moral courage, mental fortitude to know what to do in the face of these hard times. And we're coming to the end of the video here, but yeah, there are many places for us to meet that's not Facebook, that's not Twitter, that's not Instagram. The internet is actually pretty vast. I wanted to end it with promoting these other platforms: Rumble, Gab, Parler, MeWe, BitChute, Odyssey. I know for a fact that I'm going to be putting these videos still on YouTube. I'm not saying vacate those places. We still want to have our ear to the ground, right? And, listen to what the opposing side is saying, not have them just be the opposing side, but try and genuinely make friends with them and try and form a bridge, maybe a line of understanding. And, maybe we can get across some of our ideas over there to pull them towards our side. And maybe they do have some ideas over on that side that we also want to come over there for. We should not turn this into purely an adversarial match, but we should not at the same time be, complacent not to talk about the hard things that we need to. Because I think honestly what has happened is, in avoiding that hard conversation, in avoiding that discussion in order to maintain the peace, what we inadvertently did was not give a window to teach people about what Americanism actually is, what it means, what is the power of Christ, what is the truth of the gospel, right? When we avoided those conversations, that's what happened. And unfortunately, in a resulting manner, we let the discussion go unchallenged of how we can make this country push forward. This last part's a little bit fun because you can see this flag here. I'm trying to form like a family seal because obviously you see the Bible in the center there, but I want to form some kind of motto. Right now, competent and capable are up, but I thought competent, capable, and compassionate, the 3 C's. And the words of my house would be, your resolve will be tested like it should be. But yeah, I want us to be, mainly the reason why I'm showing you this is I want us to be a people who have character, have meaning, and we know who we are, whenever we walk outside our doors today and go and interact with other people in the world. Thank you for tuning in for the program. I know that was long-winded. I don't know how long that was for, 40 something minutes, dang, almost close to an hour. But yeah, thank you for tuning in. The Lyceum podcast will resume. Don't worry. We haven't disappeared off the face of the earth. Life has just been happening to us, and we've all been adjusting. Yeah. Have a good day, guys. Hey guys, thank you for making it to the end of the video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It always helps us out. Also, you can subscribe to us on Patreon and Subscribestar. Those will be links down in the description. We're also on other platforms. Obviously, Gab and Parler are my things of choice. Follow us there so you never miss an episode and for updates and just to conversate with us. Hope to hear from you soon. Have a nice day.